Alright, with this one we're going to take a look at chapters 1-7, which is quadratic equations with integer roots. Okay, this is the first form of it. Eventually we're going to get into non-integers, rationals. Well, some of these might be rational, but also things that might be a little more complicated, and eventually to the quadratic formula. Alright, so quadratic equations are equations with a power of 2. Okay, quadratic. You might think 4, but it's not, it's 2. Okay, the standard form of the quadratic equation, okay, is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Our goal is to get our quadratic all the way on the left equal to 0 on the right. Okay? Now in our case, a is going to be an integer, b is going to be an integer, and c is going to be an integer, set to the real numbers. Now they could be rational, but, you know, we're going to do this. Also, a cannot be equal to 0. Now, why can't it be 0? Well, think about it. 0 times x squared becomes bx plus c, which is just, guess what? A linear function. Alright, so when we solve the equation equal to 0, we are finding the roots, or the zeros of it. Okay. Now, what that means is if I take a graph, this is where it hits the x-axis. Okay? So if I take a graph of a quadratic, it makes a parabola. It's where it hits right there and right there. Okay? And that's what we're trying to find, those places. So here's your procedure. Put the equation into standard form by moving all the variables and terms to one side. You want it equal to 0. You're going to factor what's left. Okay? The ones we're going to do today will factor. That's why we do all the factoring practice. Step 3 is you set each of those factors equal to 0. Step 4 is to, once they're equal to 0, solve for the variable. Okay? You should be able to check it with the remaining time and good there. Okay? One of the things, though, you have to realize is you have to set each factor equal to 0. Okay? As opposed to setting it equal to a number. All right? There's a big reasoning for that. All right? And that's this. If I have x plus 3 times x minus 4, and you set each of them equal to 2 versus x plus 3 and x minus 4 equal to 0, okay, you might say, oh, I'll just make this one x plus 3 equals 2, and then x equals, guess what, negative 1. Okay? Well, if you plug that in, that only makes the left one negative, or makes the left thing 2. It makes this thing negative 5, which isn't 2. Okay? Over here, though, if you set this equal to negative 3, or equal to 0, you get an x equals negative 3, and guess what? You plug that in, you do get 0. It's the 0 property. Anything times 0 is 0, so it only works when it equals 0, and that's a big deal. Alright, so let's do some practice. So the first one here, it's already equal to 0. Okay, everything's on the left side, so all we got to do is go to our next step, which is to factor it. Alright? What things give me x squared? That's x and x. Things that give me 6 and or adding me 5. Okay, all negative, so one of them's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. So I'll do negative, positive. I do minus 6 and plus 1. Those equal 0. So there we go. That's our factored form. Works out. Set each of these factors equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Some people draw a line. X equals 6 and x equals minus 1. Okay. If you plug it in the original and check it, it should work. 6 squared is 36. Negative 5 times 6 is minus 30. So we get that as just 6, and then 6 minus 6 is 0. Negative 1 will work too. Okay. Easy peasy. Over here, we're going to have to do some work before we have anything. We got to get rid of the parentheses. So if we do that, we're going to distribute. We get 3 plus x squared minus x when I distribute. And that equals 5. I'm not done yet. I'm going to get everything over to the left side. I always like the x squared term also first. So x squared minus x, I subtract 5 from both sides. I get minus 2 equals 0. Now we factor. The last sign is negative. So it's got to be a negative and a positive. Things that multiply and do this, I do 1 and 2 because the bigger one's negative there. Set them equal to 0. X minus 2 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. X equals 2. x equals minus 1, and those are our solutions. All right? So if I were to graph this thing, moving this over, if I graph specifically this one right here, y equals, this is where it's going to hit the x-axis. All right, third question. All we got to do is move everything over. 2x squared plus 4x minus 30 equals 0. Step 2, usually we want to factor, but if you notice, we can take a number out to start. If we take a 2 out, we have x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Now, people are like, oh, what do I do with the 2? Well, if you want to carry it down, it's fine, but this will factor. Okay? We factor x squared plus 2x minus 15, we're going to get x minus 5 and x plus 3. Actually, is that going to work? Nope, our signs are off. So we got to be careful. We're backwards. We're actually going to get x plus 5, x minus 3. We want to get that big positive there. Right? That equals 0. Now, if you wanted to, you can set all the factors equal to 0. 2 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So if you look, does 2 equal 0? Nope. So that's just irrelevant. A lot of times when we take the factors out, we can disregard them. Right? As long as there's no variables. X equals minus 5 by subtracting 5, and x equals 3 there. And we're done. The final one takes a little bit more work. Okay? And if we take a look at this, we get 6x squared minus 7x, and I'm going to add 2 so that I get it equal to 0. After that, I'm going to try and factor. All right, we got a tough one. We have a trinomial, and it's got a 6 in front. So, what can we do? Well, just to get some work, why don't we do the factoring algorithm, which is how we can do this. You multiply the first and third to get 12x squared. Now, things that multiply are things that add up to be negative 7. Okay, multiply to give me positive 12. Well, how about 4x and 3x? Now, they better be negatives in order for it to work. Okay, if I bring down, I get 6x squared minus 4x minus 3x plus 2. All we're doing is breaking the 7x up, if you notice how this works. Okay, this factors here, you can take a 2x out, and you have 3x minus 2. And over here, you want it to match over here. It's close, but it's off by sign, so I'm going to take a minus 1 out, and I get 3x minus 2. Well, doing that, we get a common factor by grouping. 2x minus 1, 3x minus 2, and there we go. Now all we got to do is set each of them equal to 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0, and 3x minus 2 equals 0. Add 1 here. 2x equals 1, x equals 1/2. Yeah, you can get fractions, no big deal. Add 2 to both sides. 3x equals 2, x equals 2/3. Okay, so let's recap those steps. Put the equation in standard form. Set it equal to 0. Step 2, when you're done with that, you're going to factor the remaining quadratic any way you can. Okay, common factors, trinomial factoring, whatever you got to do. After that, set each factor equal to 0. And your final thing is to solve those little equations you get. Once you're done, check with the remaining time. All right, good luck to you. We'll see you later.